I'm Neil Blumenthal. I'm one of the founders of Warby Parker, and Warby Parker is a new brand of eyewear that provides beautiful glasses with anti-reflective prescription lenses for $95. Literally the same quality as a $500 pair, but we've sort of created this new model that we're hoping that will transform the optical industry and also sort of set the tone for how for-profit companies should behave. So we firmly believe that companies should be active problem solvers and not just focused on sort of maximizing profit at all costs. So we think a lot about our different stakeholders. We think about our customers. How do we deliver exceptional value and great customer service? So literally that $500 product at $95. We think a lot about our employees and how do we create an environment for them to flourish. We also think a lot about the billion people on Earth that don't have access to glasses. So even at $95, 15% of the world's population still, can't afford those glasses. So for every pair that we sell, we distribute one to someone in need. And we try and do that in a thoughtful way. So we partner with a nonprofit social enterprise called Vision Spring, which actually trains low-income men and women to start their own businesses selling the glasses to people in need throughout the developing world. And we think that makes sense because the problem's so big, it's not going to be solved with charity alone.
So could you tell us about your transition from Vision Spring to this now for-profit entity?
Sure. So I spent 5 years running Vision Spring, based in New York, but ended up traveling around the world, starting programs in about 10 different countries, and actually developed a line of glasses for people living on less than $4 a day, and learned all about the manufacturing process. Actually, my first trip to visit some of the factories, I was with one of the founders of Oliver Peoples, so I sort of learned firsthand how to sort of create quality glasses. And one of the things that sort of you recognize is that, wow, there's a big disconnect between what glasses cost to manufacture and what they're sold for. I decided to leave Vision Spring to go back to business school. I ended up going to Wharton because I thought that getting your MBA is some of the best leadership training you can get, and had the privilege of meeting 3 great guys, Jeff, Andy, and Dave. We're close friends, and then we're sort of all talking about how much we love glasses but hate paying crazy prices for it, and we sort of conceived this idea to create a fashion brand around doing good and delivering exceptional value. And we thought that if we could design beautiful glasses, make them great quality, and then sell them to consumers online, we would be able to sort of bypass the middlemen, bypass the licensing companies, bypass the optical shops that sort of charge ridiculous margins.
On your website, you make somewhat of a bold statement that there's maybe even some monopolistic pricing going on in the industry today.
Absolutely, and that's what excited us to this market. So when we looked at it, there were a few very large players that are vertically integrated that keep prices artificially high. So one such company is Luxottica, a public company based out of Milan that does about $7 billion a year in revenue. They're vertically integrated. They own manufacturing facilities in Europe and Asia. They own licenses to all the major brands like Ralph Lauren, Chanel, DKNY. So when you're paying a premium for those branded glasses, those brands aren't even touching it. They're not designing it, they're not manufacturing it, they're not distributing it. It's all this other company. This other company, Luxottica, also owns eyewear-only brands like Ray-Ban, Oakley, Oliver Peoples, Persol, and Arnett. So you think you're getting this premium eyewear brand that's sort of this niche independent brand, and no, it's owned by sort of this conglomerate. They also own all the major chain retailers, so LensCrafters, Pearl Vision, Sunglass Hut, Sears Optical, Target Optical. So when you go into a LensCrafters, again, you have this illusion of choice that you have 40 different brands, but it's actually made by the same company that owns the LensCrafters. And then the icing on the cake is that they own the second largest vision insurance plan in the country, iMed. So we sort of looked at this and said, wow, there's a few big players that have their hand in every cookie jar, and they're able to sort of charge anywhere between 10 to 20 times what it costs to manufacture glasses. So it seemed just right for disintermediation.
So why don't you think that any other companies have kind of stepped into this space previously?
It's funny, we get asked that a lot. I think that when you look at most industries, right, the people on the inside very rarely, have the foresight to sort of innovate and change from within, especially if you're working at one of these big companies and you have this fat margin structure, why on earth would you want to change anything? So it seems like it's always the outsiders that come in and say, hey, this doesn't seem quite right. Let's see if we can do things differently. Glasses, at least we've always thought of them as fashion accessories. You should have as many pairs as you have shoes or handbags. They reflect your personality and reflect a given mood for the day. So I want to go and shop for glasses as I shop for clothes, often with my wife or with friends. Want to take my time, want to browse. You don't find that, and that's how we've tried to build Warby Parker. It's just all about customer experience. So when we were thinking ourselves, Jeff, Andy, Dave, and I, would we buy glasses online? I think the question always came down to, well, could we try them on? So what we did is we found what was the best facial recognition software out there and created a virtual try-on on our website where you can upload a photo and virtually try on glasses. We tested that, and then the four of us thought, you know what, this is good, but I don't know if it's enough to get me over the hump to buy glasses for the first time online. So we thought, well, what if people could physically try on the glasses? What if we actually ship people 5 pairs of glasses and they could try them on at home for 5 days? And then based on what they found they liked, then at that point they could order them and we could put in prescription lenses and ship directly to them. So we created the home try-on program, the first of its kind in the US. And at that point we're like, you know what, I think we have a good idea here. It passes the test that we ourselves would be customers.
How do the established players react to a new player like you entering into the market?
So it's been interesting to watch. You have some of the big guys that are definitely monitoring us but sort of ignoring us. I think they look at us and say, hey, you know what, no one's figured out online sales just yet, and we're going to see who does it well, and we'll either copy them or we'll buy them. And that seems to have been certainly Luxottica's growth strategy, over the last 10 years or so. The other players is you have sort of the opticians and the optometrists who make the bulk of their living through selling glasses, and they look at us and they see a potential threat because they see us sort of perhaps bringing down prices. We're not so sure if we're necessarily a threat to them because this is a really big market. It's like $17 billion a year, the prescription eyewear market alone in the US, and there's plenty of room for people to play, and people always need glasses. We like to think that we're actually going to expand the market because at $95 people can have multiple pairs.
So how has growth been so far? Obviously it's been good, but better than expected, as expected. Your thoughts on that?
Sure. So I think that we thought we had a good idea. I think are quite surprised and humbled by how quickly word has spread and how this brand seems to be resonating with so many people. So we launched in February 2010 to features in Vogue and GQ. 2 days later we were in Daily Candy before we even had a chance to reach out to them. We ended up hitting our first year sales targets in 3 weeks and selling out of our top 15 styles in 4 weeks. We accumulated a wait list of about 20,000 people. It was mayhem, and this was also, we were second year MBA students at Wharton, so we were trying to respond to these customer emails all night. We had hired one of our classmates' wives to help sort of us manage our customers while we had overlapping classes, and sort of said, hey, we think that there'll be enough work for about 10 hours a week. Her first week she worked 90, and now she oversees our entire customer service team, which is over 25 people. Yeah, it's been this wild ride. I'm just waiting for someone to sort of wake me up. We've been lucky to have grown this quickly without any paid customer acquisition. So it's all been press and word of mouth. We think the word of mouth is being driven by the fashion aspect of the frames, the price point, the social mission, and customer service. So we've just been intensely focused on how do we make sure that everybody that comes to us has an enjoyable, fun experience. Because at the end of the day, buying glasses should be fun. We've done customer surveys, and we've found that our customer satisfaction scores are actually higher than Apple and Zappos. So it's something that we're going to continue to focus on. We don't view customer service as sort of a cost center that should be minimized. We think of it actually as a profit center and a marketing arm, and we invest really heavily in it. We try and hire really sharp people that are friendly and just want to help and solve problems. And we've hired over 50 people in the last 14 months, but we are intensely focused on that. Actually, 75% of our interview process is all about personality and fit.
But what advice would you give to an MBA student who's contemplating going and taking this entrepreneurial route, but obviously there are a lot of options on the table?
Sure.
What would you tell them?
I would tell them, figure out what you're most passionate about. Often we're lucky, and by the time you get to an MBA program, usually you've had a chance to experience a few things, so hopefully you have an understanding of what makes you happy and just focus on that 110%. What I found that I loved was growing organizations and managing people and working people and creating environments that help people to their best. So that's what drives me, and that's what makes sort of working at Warby Parker so much fun. I think one of the things that I'm not looking forward to is not knowing everybody within the organization really well, but I'm going to do my best to try to avoid that. And one of the things that that Dave and I do every day, so Dave and I run the company now as co-CEOs, is we do try on a weekly basis to still take customer calls and emails and really sort of stay connected. And given that we're sort of customer experience driven organization, it's just been so important for us. We really change this industry if we demonstrate that you can be stakeholder centric and be profitable, that we can inspire more entrepreneurs and more businesses to create positive change. One of the things I didn't mention, and I hardly ever mention, is that we're one of the only carbon neutral eyewear brands in the world, and it doesn't take much to do this. So it's always a question of, why isn't this the status quo yet? And that's something that we're going to hopefully push for and encourage others to do.
Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate having you here.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.